please welcome Joseph to the stage.
How do we start?
Can everybody hear me? Yep. This whole camera, it's always an issue. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm just gonna do another introduction of myself. Joe, he did it. I'm Joseph Lumbai. I'm actually a UCT alumni. I've been here, I did ECE at UCT, Electrical and Computer Engineering. We had lectures like Prof. Green, who's this? Fred Nichols, Signals and Systems, you guys know him. So after my UCT, I did another degree at UWC, pure computer science, because I was interested in AI. I left engineering because SA doesn't grant you that. The demand of engineering in SA didn't have the dynamics I imagined had to have. And then I also completed a master's in financial engineering from a university in the US, and another master's in computer science, artificial intelligence in the UK, University of East London. So in Cape Town, I'm the manager and AI lead engineer at Aizatron. We have offices in Cape Town, Johannesburg, Dubai, as well as the UK. We just opened our UK offices now, and we're busy hiring in the UK. So what is Aizatron? Really, the ambition is in the name, right? We do AI in South Africa using electronics as well. That's what all Aizatron is about. So basically, we have a couple of departments at Aizatron, and some of our departments are embedded systems with IoT. We do electronics in there. We have data analytics. We have cloud with AWS being our service provider. And we have AI, of course, that I'm driving. We also have, a couple of others, we'll get to that. So yeah, so Aizatron is quite a young company, but then despite the fact that we're young, we're actually growing across Africa at a very fast pace. And then we've had a lot of recognition, and then we've won a lot of awards. And then I'm proud of being part of this department. When I arrived at Aizatron, we didn't have quite an AI department. I gave birth to that AI department at Aizatron, and eventually we started driving that across Africa. And then we found ourselves competing with big companies like Vodacom and MTN on many different scales, because the executive team at Aizatron is eventually some very experienced folks with more than 25 years of experience coming from a telecommunication background. So from 2019, 2020, 2021 to 2023, we've been winning the TT 100 award into many different type of categories at Aizatron for recognition. And so our global presence, as I mentioned, we are in Cape Town. So in Cape Town, what we have in Cape Town is our R&D, research and development. So that means that we get people like you guys that usually break things at first attempt. We have a few guys in the R&D, and then we build stuff. And then we know you'll break whatever you're building, but then that's what it's made for. And we innovate, we build stuff. And the cool part is that you might have a burning idea. You just need to suggest it to your manager. So if you come in my department, I'm your manager, you want to build something crazy in AI, and I feel like it makes sense, it brings ROI to the company, and it's something that is just not a dream, then we'll jump on it. We use the department budget to eventually get on that project and bring it to life. So we do have the Joburg office and the Dubai office. Those are consulting offices. And then we now have an office in the UK, Birmingham. So a part of our team was actually in the UK for about 2 months setting that up. And we had the open day with Aizatron University in the UK being our partners. So we eventually growing hard. So some of our partners are Amazon, our cloud service provider, as I mentioned. And we also have Microsoft for all our admin suite and all of that. But we also have all these other guys, Splunk, Vertica, if you've heard about them, for data analytics. But we have a bunch of other partners. So, but why Aizatron, actually? So we're quite different. Our CEO, actually, Ansu Sofo, left corporate because he hated the whole corporate governance. I tell you, there's a big difference between startup and corporate. And the moment you come from a corporate, I mean, you might have heard people from corporate always complaining about rules, about governance, about all these annoying things that upper management will throw at you that are not necessarily just eating up on your time. So, but then in startup, the startup environment is more open and it's more relaxed. You get to do things in a more relaxed manner, right? And Aizatron gives that room for where people can eventually leverage emerging technologies. And I actually have with me one of my interns there, who's this Sean right there. So that's Sean. He will be talking to you a bit later about some of his experience and what he's done there. So we interview a lot at Aizatron. We interview so we have internship intake beginning of the year usually. So, but whenever we have, let's say, an influx of project in a department and we're lacking resources, we just start hiring at that time. We don't have specific time of the year where we hire, but we do have a default beginning of the year. But then at any point during the year, we can find ourselves hiring, right? But then, so we leverage emerging technologies. And so one of the sexy tech out there, I'm sure you guys know it all, it's LLMs with ChatGPT, right? You guys have heard about it. So, and I know you guys, I'm sure you guys are cheating on your assignments with ChatGPT for a very fact. That's a no-brainer. And the annoying part is that lecturer can't do anything about it. How cool is that? So yeah. So, but then I'm running an AI workshop later on at around 4:30. I'll really encourage you guys to stay because we will build something really cool. And then when I'm saying something really cool, we'll build an AI that will be able to interact with, and we'll code it from scratch, and you'll see how interesting that is and how powerful that can be. And you'll realize that, and Sean will tell you that when you come as a student at Aizatron, you realize that, sorry to put it that way, but you pretty much know, you don't know much. You know nothing. You realize that gap between academics and the professional life. Because I've said that to some of you guys. I've had UCT, I've hired UCT students, Stellenbosch, UWC, whatever university. And there's a UCT student that I hired, and what happened is that he came and he was like, I asked him to do a project for me for in a space of 3 weeks. And he was like, oh, but that's what my friend is actually doing for his thesis. He has a whole year to do that. I told him, well, you have 3 weeks, not a whole year. But then eventually he did that in 3 weeks. But how did that happen when university gives a whole flipping year? So you start realizing that there's something the industry eventually gives you that will boost your knowledge and your ability to do things. And we have industry professionals. As I said, the upper management, they have 25, 30 plus years of experience. And across industry, we're expanding very fast. In the world, you'll find yourself traveling a lot. It doesn't matter if you're an intern. As a manager, if, for example, I'd like you to travel to the UK office because there's a project there, you will travel. It doesn't matter. So, for example, right now, as we speak, we have the embedded system department and business department in Dubai. They're currently attending the GITEX event, the Global Technology GITEX event in Dubai. So, so why Aizatron? Because we're really proactive, and then we have scalability on a lot of plans, and then we are agile as well, and we have continuous improvement on our processes. And our teams, we have different departments. We have the AI department, we have the data analytics department, we have embedded system with electronics, we build our own circuit, we design our own circuit, we print our own circuit, and then we embed AI onto our microcontrollers, which doesn't make it just a dumb IC on a PCB, but it makes the PCB quite smart, right? And we do have cloud service, we use cloud, and then eventually we have web development department as well, and PM department and specialty consulting. That's for the telecom and the big guys out there. So for my department, so computer vision is one of my main skills of expertise, but then we also do have NLP at Aizatron that we're developing with ChatGPT that came out last year, December, November. we're now using LLM to eventually build our own solutions and our own products. And one of the project that I'm running on the AI workshop later, which is conversational AI, we will build something eventually using LLM and also using cloud, and you'll actually see how that goes. So a couple of elements in computer vision department. My intern there, Sean, he's a computer vision engineer working on computer vision project. He'll tell you about what he does. But we have object detection. We use edge devices. We do computer vision on the edge. That means that we use edge devices like NVIDIA Jetson Nano, NVIDIA Orin, and all those. I don't quite like the Raspberry Pi. It's quite weak, and it's very annoying when you deploy that thing. It's nice to work in a lab, but then when you deploy something on in a field, you realize that it will bring a lot of constraints. But then we do facial recognition, license plate recognition, and all of those. And on the LLP, the NLP space, we build LLMs, and what we do, we eventually build, I'll also demo that later, systems that are able to work independently, where you do not need any human intervention. You can, for example, want a piece of code that will scrape the entire Amazon website for you. You just tell it, give me a piece of code that will do that. It will eventually write the code itself. It will eventually connect the code itself. It will deploy it itself. And if the code has bugs, it will eventually fix the bugs by itself, and then eventually redeploy the code. No need for any intervention. And AI ops, it's, predictive maintenance for the big industries and all the guys. Conversational AI, you know what that is, speech-to-speech, text-to-speech, and all of that. So not going to waste a lot of time on there. Data analytics, we do have, we use tools like Power BI, tools like Splunk, tools like Vertica, and many of those other tools, often for our big customers like MTN, Vodacom, Telecom, and all those big companies. And then we do data conversion through smart automation as well. So we do a bunch of other things there. But then we also have the embedded system department. That's our electronics. That's where you design your circuits. That's where you have your microcontrollers. That's where you use your IoT services on AWS, like AWS IoT Core, and all sort of interesting stuff. So on the IoT, these are some of the circuits that we built with our logo imprinted on there. So we have built actually our own UPS there, and this UPS can stay 12 hours, literally. 12 hours. So load shedding, you always have your Wi-Fi, your laptop will always be running, and this kind of thing. So, so we have cloud device management in IoT. You guys know what IoT is. For hardware, we eventually build our own hardware. We flash our own firmware on the hardwares and all sort of things, and we design our own enclosure. We do have 3D printers at the office itself, so we 3D print our parts for whatever we do. So for cloud services, AWS is, so when you come at Aizatron, the very first certification you do is your AWS cloud. Eventually, it's part of your internship program. You'll be doing your AWS cloud, because before we grant you access, you must at least have the cloud practitioner certified exam. And we use, so all our infrastructure is cloud native, as a backend cloud native architecture. So everything sits on AWS, but we also have other type of architecture, but cloud service that take care of managing all services that runs the entire Aizatron ecosystem. So the front-end team, typical mobile web, UI, UX, React Native for mobile, JavaScript, Flutter, and that type of backend. So we do have an iterative approach for our development at Aizatron. The way we do it, we design and we develop, and we have assurance by doing a lot of testing onto whatever application you design, and then we eventually deliver our product. So we do have a project management team, and the project management team ensures that your project runs as it's supposed to, your delivery arrives on time, and that every communication cross-department all the way to your client happens as it's supposed to. Right, the specialist team consulting, it's more on the telcos and banking sector. and then they do product management and as a development, and some customer operations with some of our international customers that we have across the globe. Industry expert within the retail space, within the banking space, telco especially, because our CEO comes from telco space, was at Vodacom, and then education and security that falls under myself, and Keenan, which is the manager of the embedded system department. And the internship training program. So the internship training program often depends on what department you join, because every manager do their things differently, right? So I'll tell you about myself. When you come into my department, of course, I assume that you don't know anything, in a sense that allows me to teach you from scratch elements from the department. And I can ask Sean, actually. You can come forward, Sean. So he's a student, he's brilliant. This guy is smart, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm actually proud to have him. He's completing his internship this month, and definitely offering him a permanent position from next month in my department. Yeah. Okay, so Sean here, for example, has been my intern, and he comes from Stellenbosch and have a degree in engineering, and he's been working under myself here, and so he's been going through trainings, different trainings, and he did his certification in AWS, and he's working on project and giving sense of ownership, and meaning that for you to be an intern or not, it doesn't matter. I'll give you a project, and eventually you have ownership. That sense of ownership gives you responsibilities that allows you to run big projects with big clients. And I'll just let Sean tell you a few words around his experience with Aizatron.
That's cool. Thank you very much, Joseph. So my experience at Aizatron has been very positive from the start, and about a month prior to me actually starting at Aizatron, I completed my vacation training at another company, and I'm not going to name the company's name, but all in all, the experience at that company, the culture there was really not as good as what Aizatron was. So I came from that to a place like Aizatron, where you basically start there, as Joseph said, assume you know nothing, because in actuality you actually don't. Because you do study for 4 years and all this stuff, but the real value of your competence actually comes into your experiential knowledge, like what have you actually done, what projects have you actually done, and that is where your actual knowledge comes. So firstly, when I came at Aizatron, like Joseph said, he gives you a mini project, and that mini project I did was a pretty difficult one, but because of my team, Joseph and Calvin, they really help guide you through your project and how to think about it to do it efficiently. So yes, that's...
So you can maybe tell them about the project that you're working on, a bit into the details, so that they see the kind of work they expect and what you're going to work at Aizatron, yeah. And it's not just go and print hello world.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was mainly, as I said, busy with the computer vision side and with object tracking. So the idea behind what I was doing was to create a modular object tracking software where you can insert either a real-time stream or a local video, and then you will be able to track all the objects through the screen. So for example, in a retail setting, if you see a person walking in from the entrance, and then that person is labeled as object number 1, and then you see how they walk from one region to the next. Now, the entire idea of this is, firstly, it can be used in security and also for data analytics. So imagine if you have a retail setting where where you analyze the traffic of people moving through the stores, then you can see, okay, women generally spend their time in this section, and then they go from this section to this one. And that is basically one of the things that's one of the use cases of this. It can, of course, also be used for security and for many other purposes.
Okay. And so maybe one question that I can ask to Sean for your interest's sake is, what is the main difference that you might have noticed when you left university and when you came as an intern? And how did you eventually adapt yourself in the short space of time that you had?
Yes, all right. So one of the main things, and this is something that Joseph and Calvin spoke to me a lot about in the beginning, is I always wanted to try to reinvent the wheel the moment when we got there. And the moment when we spoke about solutions and what are things we can do to solve a certain problem, I always wanted to reinvent the wheel. What Joseph and Calvin would more suggest me to look at current technology, see how we can leverage that into a system that can actually work. So the main difference, I think, is the practicality that it actually teaches you, where you can actually do something that has some practical value added, and not all of this theoretical stuff that's generally preached in university.
Yeah, and actually later, if you stay at, I think it's 4 or 4:30, when we have the AI workshop, I will actually show you within a space of like, what will we have, like 40 minutes or so, about an hour or so, something like that. We'll eventually build a whole conversational AI system, bot, assistant eventually, that you can eventually speak to, converse with your own voice, and have a complete talk with it. And that becomes your personal agent, that becomes your personal bot. It's quite interesting. But you'll see that if you have that mentality of, I'm going to code everything from scratch, train a model, write all this neural network, it will take you days. The training alone, I don't know when that will be done. So, but then there's this approach that you develop application within the industry world, right? And that is the element that I want you guys to get from that AI workshop, how you're able to pull components from different places and build this element that is eventually a POC, an MVP, that can do real-life stuff, that can eventually impress a customer out there, that can get an investment of $1 million, that can get you to have your investors buy into your idea, because that idea is not just an idea, it becomes something that is tangible. You can see it works, and it does what you say it will do. It's not a pitch deck full of slides telling we'll do that, it will take us 9 months, but you have a POC that you can show at the end of the day. And then the approach that you will take, you'll understand the importance of APIs, you'll understand the importance of cloud, you understand the importance of reusable code, and you'll understand the importance of prototyping. Things that you won't get from university. And this is the sad part, but eventually that's why internship programs are there. That's why we have an R&D space where we teach you this stuff. And the nice part about Aizatron is that when you come, you might want to do AI, but you'll grab skills from the other departments as well, because you'll eventually be working with them. You will build an end-to-end system. You might be an AI guy, but then it's one thing to know one skill, but it's another to be able to put down a whole system end-to-end by yourself. And that's what makes you an asset in a company, right? It's not that I can build a web page. It means that I can build my web page connected with this and have the IoT component, the data coming from this source plugging into, and then having it hosted onto the cloud. That makes you interesting. And that's what makes your salary 5 times more than the guy that can just do a front-end web page, right? So these are the kind of things that are really important. But these are the name of some of our managers here. The managing director, Fazin, is in the UK. For the UK office, Hans is our CEO. There's myself for the artificial intelligence department, Keenan for embedded, Melissa, that's PM, and Tando for the data analytics, Sajad, that's cloud service, and I've added Sean here as my current intern at Aizatron. But then you might wonder, what does a typical Aizatron job description look like when we